story that I think it really sets up the story of the fellowship really well. So at a very basic level, MLH in general powers the largest community of early career developers really anywhere. In a recent survey we did, 1 in 3, so 33%, a full third of all new programmers in the United States are alumni of the MLH community. They've been to a hackathon, maybe they've organized a hackathon. They're sort of in our broader community. So we have over 100,000 community members annually here at MLH. And so we know that we are sitting on this incredible pool of technical talent that we know companies are looking to partner with. We know that you all are looking for new opportunities to share your passion for the tech space, whether that's for coding or building or hacking, whatever brought you here. And so we are always looking for ways to connect like-minded individuals, right? The folks who are learning tech and just getting started in their careers with the companies who are looking to partner with and maybe eventually hire that talent. And so out of all of that, the fellowship was born. We said to ourselves in early 2020, which some of you on the call may remember was an interesting time for the world, where internships were getting canceled and there was a lot of uncertainty about just the future of careers and also futures. The future in general, like where's everybody going to end up? How is this going to impact the world, and so on. We at MLH, with our co-founder Swift and a couple of other team members here, we said, you know what? We're sitting on something here that can really make life better for a lot of people in this time of sort of struggle and uncertainty. And so we came up with the MLH Fellowship, which is a 12-week remote internship alternative. Essentially, fellows apply for the program, and if accepted, they're assigned to projects from one of our partners that allow them to practice not only their technical skills, but also their professional skills, their soft skills, their ability to work in a team, build something with other people, and ultimately build their resumes at the same time, and hopefully put them in a better place for their career and their learning than they would have been in otherwise. It is a 100% remote program, and there is an educational stipend attached to it. One of the most common questions I get in these sessions is there a stipend for this program? And there absolutely is. Many of our fellows have successfully landed jobs after the program. And really, we think it's because of our power to take the technical knowledge of the people in our community and help them find a practical application for that knowledge. So here's, again, the little bit of the story of the history of the fellowship. Since we launched it, we have over 1,000 pull requests merged by our fellows. 800 fellowship alumni, but we actually have a graduation going on tomorrow. So it wouldn't surprise me if that number by tomorrow at this time is over 1,000 alumni of this program. Of our grads who graduated not even a year ago, over half of them already have jobs. We have 20 active fellowship partners and more coming on. And we've run 7 batches of the fellowship with, again, more on the way. So it's been a really exciting journey to see this program empower hackers, empower students, and also empower our partners, and ultimately make a real tangible impact on just the tech community at large. So let's dive deep on what we mean by fellow outcomes and the kind of outcome you can expect as a student in the fellowship. So here's an example of a student who is now an alumni of the program. She went through the program last year. Her name is Anne. And y'all can read what she says here, but I'll just pull out a couple of highlights. She was a fellow. She was matched with, at the time, Facebook, which is now Meta. And so when she was job seeking, she was able to talk not just about being able to work with Meta engineers and work on Meta technology, but also talk about, in general, the open source experience she was able to get from being part of our open source track. Had not had, and so it was a real career accelerator for her to be able to be part of the talk about within this program. And as you can see at the top of the slide, now she is a full-fledged software engineer at Chegg, and we have lots of similar stories of fellows who have come out of the program. Joshua, as you can see there, is a software engineer at Google who just started a couple of weeks ago. We have someone who we placed at Amazon who was able to get a job at um, and someone who was in our production engineering track who got a job that sort of blends software engineering with site reliability engineering too. So the sky is the limit for fellows coming out of this program, and the experience that you get, the ability to work with professional engineers, build code that like runs in real world projects that you can then talk about in job interviews and whatnot, is just such a powerful, I like to call it like rocket fuel for your early career start. Like, you take all the skills that you already have and concentrate it and focus it through the fellowship, and you can really achieve whatever you set out to achieve. By the way, we will have time to answer questions a little bit later in the presentation. So please feel free to chat any questions that you might have. I will be keeping an eye on the chat as we present, and I'll be sure to get to the most commonly asked questions at the end of the presentation. Right now, though, I want to address a couple of the most commonly asked questions right up at the start, because I know people are going to have this stuff on their minds. So after today, you attend our wonderful, glorious information session and you get all of this information. What happens next? Applications are still open for our fall semester. So if you don't yet have plans or an internship or something to do outside of school for the fall semester, you absolutely can still apply. We expect that we will be full up. We will have hit our application goal by August 31st. So just a couple of weeks from now, but there is still time. And that's so that we can get to every single application before the program starts on September 19th. Obviously, if you apply on September 16th for a program that starts September 19th, probably not going to get in. So that's why we say apply by the end of this month, so that we have time to review your applications. If the fall program is not the right fit for you, or if you're looking for something a little bit of a lighter lift in the fall, if you have a heavy course load or something like that, we do also have our prep program, which is a shorter, sort of lighter touch version of the fellowship that you can join. We have an October semester of that and a November semester. That is a 3-week long program. Applications for those semesters are open now as well. And so the big takeaways here are, if you haven't yet applied, now is definitely the time. We are particularly looking for folks in North America, so US, Canada, or Mexico, though you're more than welcome to apply from other parts in the world as well. We are also seeking some European fellows. So my European friends out there, Europe and the UK, please feel free to send in an application. We are not exclusively looking for Java, TypeScript, or Rust, but those are we have some very big partners who are sponsoring a lot of fellowship seats this season, who are looking for fellows with that experience. So if you have Java, TypeScript, or Rust experience, now is a great time. And if you have applied, which I'm betting there are some people in the call right now who are like, but I did apply, what's going on? If you have already applied, matching is happening right now. And the way that matching works is we take your application, we look at what you wrote down in your essays, the things you said you were interested in, the things you talked about in your interviews, how you did in your code sample, so on and so forth, and all of that. And then we look at the projects that we're looking to host in the program this fall, and we say what would you be a good fit for? Like we said, we're looking for people who, for example, have Rust experience. We have a couple of partners who are sponsoring projects that involve working pretty heavily in Rust. So if you come and apply and tell us, hey, I'm interested in Rust, I'm starting to learn it, I'm really interested in learning more, we would seek to match you to a project where you actually get to do that work. So matching is a little bit of a dance. Like I like to say, it's a little bit of an art and a little bit of a science. We look at the projects we have available. We match those skill sets together, and we do our very best to get you on the project that best matches your skill set and the things that you said you were interested in. So I'll answer a lot more questions about the application process a little bit later in the presentation. So I see all of your questions coming in. Thank you so much. There will be time for Q&A at the end. Right now, I just want to very quickly take you through a couple of highlights for what's coming up this fall. I mentioned we have a bunch of different partners who we're working with. Many of these are partners who we've looked at or who we've worked with in the past. We've worked extensively with Meta. In fact, I bet there are some people on this call who have been fellows with Meta in the past. GitHub's one of our founding partners. They're sponsoring some projects with us this fall. Solana is our Web3 engagement this fall. They've worked with us now for, this will be their third semester running, and they bring in a lot of blockchain experience, Web3 based projects, and a lot of projects that involve Rust. So if you are a blockchain enthusiast or Web3 enthusiast and want to learn more about that, Solana is sponsoring more seats, and we expect they'll do some more in the future as well. So that's exciting. And again, the way we think about these partners are, we're sort of all over the spectrum, as you can imagine. We have a lot of big tech labels, right? We have Meta, we have Amazon, we have GitHub, we have Google this fall, which we're actually really excited about. So a lot of the, I guess what used to be called FANG, and now I've seen it called everything from like Gamma to Manga, or I don't even know what. But we have a lot of those big tech companies, but we also know that not everybody is looking to start their career or continue their career in big tech. So we also have some lesser known gems and some startups who are partnered with us as well. So maybe you're super jazzed about working at a big tech company. Maybe you're looking for something entirely different than that. We may still very well have a partnership and a project for you. So don't be shy. Oh yeah, boop, there's the Google logo. We are so excited to do a relatively small but still pretty exciting engagement with Google this fall. And I expect we will continue to see Google be an active partner into the future. All right. So I see a lot of good questions coming into the chat. At this time, I'd love to invite Fiona back on stream because we're going to do a little bit of a...
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Fiona, thanks for hopping on here. So as Fiona said a little bit earlier, she has been a member of the MLH community for a long time, and an MLH employee since the early part of this year when we were able to bring tech together under the Major League Hacking umbrella. We were so excited to get to start working with her as a colleague. And I thought that instead of listening to me talk for another 45 minutes, we would bring on a new face, maybe a familiar face to some of you from the Tech Together community, to chat a little bit about why the MLH community is so special, what drew Fiona to the world of MLH and hackathons, and why this is such an exciting place to be as an early career technologist. So Fiona, I guess we'll open with a question that might be on a lot of people's minds. I know it was on my mind when you first started, which is, Fiona, what does a director of strategic initiatives do?
Yeah. Well, first off, I could definitely hear you speak for 45 minutes. But to get into what my role does, I'll be responsible as the director of strategic initiatives at MLH and Tech Together for building and cultivating the awesome community of organizers, probably just like some of you, who put on some of the awesome MLH events that I attended when I was first getting into hackathons like Hack NYU, that in turn empower thousands of hackers that, teach them the foundational technical skills that build those friendships, long-lasting friendships, and maybe even career connections for internships and jobs. And as part of that, we also have some special initiatives that I work on that support the community. Some of them that will be announced at HackCon. So if you're going to HackCon, really excited to share with you some of the projects I've been working on.
Can we get some energy in the chat from anybody who's coming to HackCon? Maybe a little like HackCon with as many exclamation points as you can type. Yeah, I'm so excited to hear about this year's HackCon and see everybody and meet everybody in person for the first time in such a long.
For sure.
You were talking a little bit about the your early start at getting involved in the hacker community. But tell us a little bit about what got you into sort of, what made you decide to pursue STEM or pursue tech in the first place, and what really got you turned on to hackathons and the hacker community in particular?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I love telling this story because I had absolutely no idea what I was thinking when I made this decision to attend my first hackathon, which is really how I found my passion for tech. and found my place like in my university where I felt really comfortable, and found my lifelong friends and now partner. So my first hackathon was Hack NYU back in 2017. So like almost over 5 years ago, which is crazy. I'm old now. And I, for some reason, like decided that I was going to travel all the way from Boston to New York alone with like very little coding experience and like absolutely no experience with hackathons. Like I didn't know what a hackathon was, like very vaguely. And so long story short, like I absolutely fell in love with the experience. Hack NYU was an amazing event. There was awesome technologies. The people I met are still people that I keep in touch with today. And I was like, I need more of it. But the experience, although like, made me fall in love with hackathons, wasn't overall, wasn't completely positive because while I was there, I noticed, a glaring gender disparity. So, I was one of like 3 women that was in like a room of hundreds of men. And additionally, when I was trying to join teams, I was told I was too experienced. And I also, one guy, literally, I had just walked in the venue, asked me if I even coded. So not only was I underrepresented, but I was also being underestimated as well. And so that kind of sparked an idea upon other experiences in the STEM field that inspired me to create what is now called Tech Together, which is, creating space in the hackathon community where people of all gender identities can feel safe, supported, and empowered. And the primary way that we do that is we facilitate community-led, gender-focused hackathons across the country. Some of you that you may have attended them, which is awesome. Love to have you here. And yeah, I'm really proud of that work. And I wouldn't have been able to, be a part of the hackathon community in this initiative without that initial life-changing experience at Hack NYU, 5+ years ago.
That's so awesome. I see some NYU representing happening in the chat, which is super exciting. What I love about that story, Fiona, is that you attended the event and it could have been just this like one-off thing that you did, and you were like, oh, there were parts of that were good and parts of it that were bad, but I'm like moving on with my life. But instead, you saw both a gap, but you also saw that like, hey, maybe I'm someone who could help fill that gap. I see a problem and I want to try to address it, and that I think is just really exciting and inspiring, and the kind of thing that can come out of a hackathon, right? Like you go thinking you're going to do one thing and you get so much more out of it. So since you've had years now to really build tech together and think really deeply about these questions of inclusivity in the hacker community, what do you think is the secret to unlocking the hacker community for a diverse crowd of people? How can this community become even more inclusive?
Yeah, I mean, I think for people who are hesitated to get started, who are underestimated and underrepresented, I think just find a space where you feel comfortable and safe. Maybe a Tech Together event, maybe a Tech Together workshop, or maybe it's the fellowship. And I think just give it a shot. You know what I mean? What's the worst thing that could happen? I think you know give it a try. Like I think for instance, for the fellowship, like a lot of the things that I hear in our community are, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough experience, like I'm not sure if this will work out. I think you know those are valid concerns, but I think don't let it hold you back from hitting that apply button, or at least giving a chance, because at the end of the day, like it's up to the fellowship team to decide, make those calls, and you can always get feedback on your application to reapply the following year, but you wouldn't get that feedback if you hadn't made that first move. So I definitely recommend just getting started, and then finding through the different means a space that makes you feel safe and empowered. And if it doesn't, provide that feedback if you want. You know what I mean? Spaces are always looking and communities are always looking to improve. The hackathon community specifically, I found, has been incredibly responsive and receptive to feedback. And we're always working on ways to improve. And sometimes the ways that we can do that, the best ways that we can do that are based off of feedback from the community.
Thank you for highlighting that. I think that's so important. We'll talk a little bit more about this later when I talk about our admissions process and tips and tricks for being successful within it. But to your point, Fiona, about like give it a try. What's the worst that could happen? In one of our recent classes, I want to say it was our spring class of the fellowship. Once everybody was in and it started, and I was looking at the numbers, I realized that fully half, 50% of the fellows who were in the spring semester had applied previously and hadn't gotten in. They
That's
were
awesome.
re-applicants. And so what that said to me was that, like, oh, okay, these were people who tried and didn't get in the first time and then said, you know what? I'm going to take the feedback that they gave me. I'm going to improve my application. I'm going to try this again. I'm going to take it as a not as a no, but as a, not now. And I'm going to give it a try. And it gave them the opportunity to level up their skills. And then the next thing you know, they turned around, they reapplied, and there they were, in the fellowship this spring. Excuse me, everybody. Um, so for everybody on the call, whether you identify as a member of an underrepresented group or not, I see some chat conversation in the chat, about, I'm a relatively new coder. Should I apply this or that? I really do think, like, don't he's trying. Um, I think there's need some water. I think there's this tendency, especially when we're new at something, to undersell our own abilities and say, "Oh, they'll never want me. I'm not good enough. I'm not experienced enough." Um, I am so excited when, like, relatively new hackers apply to the program, when folks who are coming to the program from, sort of a non-traditional background apply to the program. We have people who apply who say, hey, you know what, I started school, I thought I was going to be a psychology major or an English major, and I just recently got turned on to software engineering or coding, and I think it's what I want to major in now. Like, those are the kinds of experiences that we really want the fellowship to highlight. So please don't be shy. The only baseline technical requirement is that you have some proficiency in at least one coding language. So be that JavaScript, Python, Java, whatever you're using in your university programs. You are welcome to apply, throw your hat in the ring. Maybe you'll get in. And even if you don't, you'll get actionable feedback that you can use to clean up and improve your application in the future. So yeah, don't be your own worst critic. I guarantee you, however you think you're doing, and I know this is true in my own life and the lives of my friends, it's probably way better than you think, and you should probably give yourself a little bit more credit.
Yeah, I think the advice that I give our hackers, specifically our new hackers, is everyone starts somewhere. The advanced hackers at, our hackathons, they had their first hackathon at some time. So we're all just in different places in our journey, just trying to learn and grow. And it just kind of gets easier as you go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Fiona, as you think about the MLH as a whole, and then the fellowship sort of specifically as a learning opportunity for young technologists or young hackers, what do you think makes what stands out to you about this opportunity? Like, if you were someone considering applying for the fellowship, what would stand out about it to you, and what would you say to someone who's thinking about applying today?
Well, the first thing I would say is I'm really jealous because I think it's such an incredible opportunity and something I wish was around when I was a student. I actually made a bullet list of like four things I was the most jealous of and relevant to my previous experiences. So the first one was full-time potential. I feel like I don't even need to explain why that's awesome that there's an opportunity to go from an intern to a full-time employee. And there's like a specified pathway for that. I think anything that makes job hunting easier is 100% a win for me. I landed my first job after graduation before my senior year had even started, and it saved me a ton of stress. I actually didn't need to interview for my full-time role because I was an intern. And it was just a wonderful experience and really allowed me to relax and actually enjoy my last year of college. Well, enjoy is maybe not the right word because I took some really hard CS classes, but survive it better. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I just think I personally love, having an impact. And I think in the fellowship, you actually get an opportunity to have impact on a product and not just busy work. I've collected a lot of mail in my time as an intern. I've done a lot of coffee making, which, is great to kind of build up those soft skills and, learn how to take out the trash. But, it's a really rare opportunity to be able to get hands-on experience as a young professional. So I think, again, the fellowship is a really great opportunity to really develop your skill sets and not just have, the title on your resume. And then the third thing is, um, again, people actually care if you succeed. Like, again, as I said in the past one, like at a lot of internships, like maybe or internship alternatives, you're just doing busy work. And maybe like your boss doesn't really care whether you succeed or not. You're just throwing it on your resume, or they're even just like filling a role. So I think again, it's an incredible opportunity to have people behind you constantly supporting you. That where it's their literal mission to help you succeed. So I really appreciate that about the fellowship and the authenticity there. And then last one, I mean, again, I feel like this is self-explanatory, but like it's paid. Like as you probably know, like a lot of internships and jobs are not paid. A lot of those mail runs, I wasn't getting any money for that. That was just all for the resume. So and just again to get experience on my resume. And balancing jobs and school and internships can be really tricky. So I really appreciate with the fellowship that it may make the decision between having a part-time job and having an internship a little bit less difficult, so you can really focus on honing in your skill sets rather than like potentially having to balance a bunch of responsibilities. So I really appreciate that not only are you paid, but you're paid fairly. And all of those things, like alone, I feel like would make me want to take one of those internship opportunities. So the fact that they're checking off all of those boxes is just, I think, incredible. And again, what makes me really jealous and why I'm constantly telling people to apply. Because I just think, again, it's just an incredible opportunity from so many different perspectives.
Well, thank you so much for that, Fiona. And I wanna circle back to Fiona's third point here, which, if I have your order correct, was about how much the fellowship team cares about your success. That is like when our fellows succeed, we succeed. Like when our fellows do well, we do well. Like it is the entire purpose of the existence of this program is to help people access new opportunities. And so myself, every single person who works on my admissions team, all of our pod leaders who, if you're a fellow, meet with you multiple times a week, our mentors and maintainers, everyone who's a part of this program is so invested in seeing the program itself and then each individual fellow be successful. Like I cannot tell you how many conversations I'm in every week about like, oh, so and so had a question about their project. Can we get some technical support for them? Or hey, somebody's not feeling well, they're going to have to miss a couple of sessions. Can we get them some makeup work and this and that? Like literally student by student and fellow by fellow, we want to see people succeed. So if you are on the fence about thinking about doing this program or worried about fitting in, please know that I don't think it'd be hard to find a program more sort of open and supportive than the fellowship to learn. Well, we've made it through my questions for you, Fiona, but is there anything else you want to say to the group about your experience at MLH or just pieces of advice?
I think the MLH community is really a great place for people who want to grow in their career or make some awesome friends in the community. If you have any questions or anything, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. I'll drop it in the comments. If you have questions or need advice, I think this, goes for everyone in the MLH team, but we're always happy to be there for you in whichever way that you need it. So I'm super excited to see some of you apply. So great to see some of you, already people in the program. And thanks for having me, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Round of applause. Very sad round of applause. It's just me, but round of applause for Fiona. Thanks so much for joining. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, okay?
Awesome. Thanks. Bye. Bye, everyone.
All right, so Fiona's going to bounce, but we're going to stick around. I'm certainly going to stick around because this is the part of the presentation where we answer some of those questions that you've been asking in the chat about how do I get admitted and what makes a good application and so on. So we're going to go through these real quick, and then we'll have hopefully a good 15 minutes or so for Q&A if folks have questions. So. First things first, I've already alluded to some of this in the lead up to all of this, but the admissions process has a couple of different stages to it. So when you apply, the first thing we do is we review your application and we read through the essays that you wrote, the resume you submitted, or your LinkedIn page if you submitted one. We look at your technical experience. We look at just sort of everything about you to get a holistic understanding of you as a person and as an applicant. We also take a deep dive into the code sample that you will have submitted. I saw some questions in the chat about what makes a good code sample. The most important thing about your code sample is that it be, it come with some explanation. Someone is going to be looking at your code sample before you are there to explain it to them. So you'll want that person to be able to understand what you've done. But possibly even more important than that, it should be a project that you worked on and can speak to fluently, by which I mean there are folks who apply and their code sample is, a group project that they did 3 semesters ago, which they wrote maybe 20% of. And then we get to talking to them. We're like, hey, can you describe this code sample? Like, what did you do? What did you learn? What did you build? And they can't really talk about it because either they didn't really build the whole thing, they don't really understand it all, or it was so long ago that they don't really remember. So the best code samples are the ones that you feel you can confidently describe from a technical perspective. This is what I did. This is how I built it. These are the problems I ran into, and this is how I solved them. That's super duper important. If that goes well, we'll invite you to a series of interviews, both a behavioral interview and a technical interview. And then we will make our final decision. And as it says down here, when we are making that final decision, we're looking for any red flags in your profile, but we're also looking at your personal goals that you've shared with us and your fit for our upcoming projects. We don't want to, we've had an experience in the past where we've admitted someone into the program and we've ended up matching them to a project that they weren't really that excited about, right? Like maybe it was a, I don't remember the specifics, but you can imagine it was a data science project and they didn't think of themselves as a data science person. They weren't that excited about it. And they ended up having not such a great experience. So we really do try to match what you want to the programs that we have available so that everybody gets the best possible experience. We are still in the midst of this for fall. We are actually really in the thick of it for the fall. We have so many interviews happening. We are maybe about 40% full for the fall right now, but which means we do still have seats available. And if you haven't heard from us, if you know you finished your technical interview, but you haven't heard from us, that means we are still in this final decision stage for you. We are looking at your application. We are looking at our incoming projects, and we are determining if there's a right fit there. So how do you get in? What are the most important things you can do? Step one is to apply early. For the fall, it is a little late to apply early, but it is not too late to apply early for the spring semester. So, as a couple of you have asked in the chat, spring semester starts in January. We will be running many of the same partners, probably not all of the same, but many of the same. And applications are still open for that, as well as our summer semester for next year. So, if you're already thinking about what am I going to do next summer, there's an opportunity to apply now. That said, if fall is your goal, applications are still open and you are still able to apply, but know that the earlier you apply to either this or future semesters, the better your chances are going to be. My second piece of advice is to really invest some time into the very first part of the application process, which is your essays. I share these two examples, and I just sort of put the question to all of you rhetorically. You know, who would you rather talk to? We ask a question: is there anything else we should know about you? What else do you like? Tell us about yourself. We have one applicant who has told us nothing at all, and we have another applicant who has basically shared all of these projects that they've worked on and how passionate they are and other projects that they've been involved in and things that they're trying to learn. It's kind of a no-brainer who I'm going to invite to interview based on just these two essays alone. So it can be tempting to think of this, well, it's a technical program, so the thing that's most important is my code sample. Your first impression is that of your essays. So spend some time on them and make sure they really showcase who you are as a person and as a developer. That will be the best way to get the admissions team's attention. I also encourage folks to showcase the thing that they're passionate about. I think sometimes, especially when we're younger in our careers, it's easy to say, "Oh, well, I want to be a generalist. Like, I don't know yet what I'm really excited about, or I don't know that I have enough experience to really talk about something like this." But I give you an example of this individual who applied for our spring semester, who was so passionate about Web3 and the blockchain that he went and built an app, a wedding registry app, in the Solana ecosystem, just to showcase that he knew what he was doing, that he was familiar with the technology, and that he was excited about it. And guess what? We absolutely admitted this person to the program and matched him to a Solana project because we were like, "Oh my god, this person is so interested in this." So don't be afraid to showcase. You know how Fiona and I were joking earlier in the presentation about how she's passionate about Star Trek and I'm passionate about Star Wars. Show the thing that you're passionate about. It always makes you that much more interesting. It makes us more excited about you as a candidate, and it makes it easy for us to say, yeah, I can totally see where this person would fit in the program. I mentioned this earlier, so I won't belabor the point, but about half of our accepted fellows in any given semester are repeat applicants, people who have applied before and not gotten in, including the Solana fellow that I just talked about a minute ago. So do not be afraid if you've been rejected in the past. That does not mean the door is closed to you. And last but not least, if you already have plans for this fall, or you're not accepted because you get your application in too late or something like that, we do offer MLH prep throughout the year. It is a 3-week long, completely free introductory course that gives you some of the basics of how the fellowship works and a little bit of experience. The last time I ran the numbers, fellows who complete MLH prep are 14 times more likely to get accepted into the program than those who apply without having done prep first. So if you're looking for a way to really boost your odds, apply and get into the prep course. That will be a huge lift to all of your attempts here. All right. So those are my top admissions tips. I've seen some really, really great questions come in the chat. So let me start by highlighting a few of those. Someone asked, is it too early to apply for spring? It is not too early to apply. The only caveat I would give there is because the fall fellowship starts in September, the admissions team is going to be really focused on the fall semester until that class starts. Once we're through the fall class and everyone has started, only after that will we start reviewing applications for the spring. So you are more than welcome to submit your application for spring or even summer. Just know that you may not hear from us for a couple of weeks because the focus of the team is going to be on finishing up admissions for the fall semester. But you are more than welcome to apply. I hope that answers your question. I have a question here. I actually saw a couple of people ask a similar question. I've applied for the fall. I'm from Asia Pacific. Are we still accepting applicants from Asia Pacific? We We absolutely are. If you have applied from that region and your application is in process, we are absolutely still accepting folks from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Malaysia. I think we have a fellow from this year. So we are absolutely still looking at applications. We are not accepting new applications from APAC right now, just because I don't think we'll have the seats for people. But if you are in the Asia Pacific region and you have not applied yet, you are more than welcome to apply for the spring semester. If you have an active fall application and haven't heard from us, that is because we are still reviewing your application and trying to find a good project match for you. Speaking of project matches, we have Paranoid Broccoli, which like mwah, chef's kiss on the screen name there. Love it. Um, got accepted as a fellow for the fall batch of the MLH Fellowship Program. Congratulations, that's super exciting. When will I be able to learn about which organization we'll be working with? So we are well. First of all, you can always shoot an email to the fellowship team. Just help@fellowship.mlh.io, and we'd be happy to look it up for you. Know that sometimes the answer might be we're not entirely sure. And the reason for that is some of our partners are still finalizing the projects that they want to work on with us. So, for example, Solana is going to be giving us probably about 8 or 9 different projects to work on this fall. So, for example, I might be able to tell you, we think you're going to be a Solana fellow, but we don't know exactly which project you're going to be on yet. You will know all of the details as we get closer to the start date. So, if the program starts on the 19th, you can expect to hear from us probably about 2 weeks before your start date with all of the project details for what you've been matched to. And then I also want to highlight this question. It's a question that's near and dear to my heart. Are we open to bootcamp graduates and self-taught engineers? The answer is absolutely yes. Fun fact about me: before I came over to MLH to run admissions for the fellowship, I worked for 6 years at Flatiron School, which is a coding bootcamp in New York and a couple other locations now. I was on their admissions team. I am still very plugged into the sort of bootcamp ecosystem at career changers and people who come to the world of tech a little bit later in their careers, later in life. I would say as long as you are, I think a couple of people have answered some aspects of this in chat, but as long as you are able to commit at least 30 hours a week to the program, you're not otherwise engaged with a full-time job plus a bunch of other commitments and so on, you're more than welcome to apply. We absolutely had a couple of bootcamp grads in our summer class. There might be, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure we have at least 1 or 2 bootcamp grads already signed up to do the program in the fall. So yeah, please throw your hat in the ring. You would not be a perfect match for every single project. For instance, there aren't a lot of boot camps out there that are teaching Rust, for instance. But you probably have some really good JavaScript skills, some really good Python skills, perhaps. Throw your hat in the ring, please. All right, let me catch up on the chat here and see what other questions we have that might be interesting to answer. Here's a good question. How long does it usually take to hear back after applying? I applied a month ago and haven't gotten any updates yet. This would probably depend on the start date that you applied to. Right now, I know that we have gotten back at every application that has come through for the fall fellowship. We have at least reviewed or starting to review this week. So if you applied for the fall and haven't heard from us, please shoot an email to the fellowship team so that we can check on the status of your application. I really want to make sure that we haven't misplaced yours or missed an email or something like that. If you applied to October prep or November prep or the spring semester, it is possible that we have not started reviewing your application yet, simply because we're so focused on the September start date. So yeah, if you haven't heard from us and you're waiting for an answer for the September 19th start date, please shoot us an email so we can take a look at where your application is and make sure to get you through. Oh, here's an excellent question. Are students supposed to be familiar with LeetCode code style questions? Is data structures and algorithms a requirement? I am pleased to say that the answer here is No, we do not require any particular, hacker rank problems or leak code style questions. You do not yet have to have taken data structures and algorithms, or have a strong sense of those things to be successful. What you need is to be proficient in a programming language, practical coding experience. Have you built a project? Have you, worked on something in a team with a class that you've taken? Is Have you sort of written and created things with code? Have you written a Discord bot that you're proud of? Do you have a personal website that you built from scratch? That kind of thing. My little asterisk to this is it never hurts to be familiar with like hacker rank or leak code questions, especially if you are starting to get to the point where you're thinking about your job search, because those tools can be really, really helpful to help you organize your thinking skills, and just give you a safe space to try out a bunch of things and hone your own knowledge. But that we do not check for those things in our application process. You're not going to be asked about data structures or algorithms in your technical interview with us. Please don't let that be a blocker to you throwing your hat in for the program. I love that question. Thank you for asking. Let's see. I think we have time for one or two more here. Oh, here's a good question. Do you send acceptance mails based on your tech stack, like first priority to Rust and then TypeScript and JavaScript? Not really. I think the more detailed answer here is we know that there are certain tech stacks that we have more seats available for in the fall than others. For instance, I'll give you a really good example that happened to come up this week. We have it's looking like we're going to have only a handful of seats available in the fall, for folks who specifically want to learn and work on a mobile dev experience. So, Swift or iOS development, or Android development. We're not going to have a lot of seats for that. So if you apply and you say in your application, I'm really excited, I'm really passionate about mobile development, my code sample is in Swift or in Android, that's the thing I most want to do. Um, you 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 may be a really, really strong applicant, and we may just not have the seat for you. Whereas if you apply with something like Java or Rust right now, we have quite a few seats open in those technologies. So I would say, you want to, um, don't. I guess there's a couple of things that can come out of that. One is, it's not so much that we prioritize; it's that we know there's going to be certain seats open and certain seats that will be harder to fill, and so we're constant. That's why I say like, hey, we're looking for people with Rust experience, because I know I have about 20 seats for people who have Rust experience. I may only have 5 for people who have Swift experience, for instance. But I also want to like call that out, as a reason to like not be afraid to apply or not be too discouraged if you've gotten a rejection letter. Like, it may have very little to do with you and your skill set. You might be the world's most talented iOS developer, but if you are the, you know, 12th person that I've looked at for iOS and I only have 5 seats, it may not have gone to you, and it may have nothing to do with your skill set. So that's why I say keep trying, keep reapplying. Don't be afraid to share the thing that you're so excited about, because we do still have those seats open and somebody's going to get them. And there's no reason to think that even if it's not you this semester, it wouldn't be you in the future. I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions. Do, do, do. We have a similar question. Are working professionals accepted? Working professionals can get into the program. We would probably just need to know a little bit about how you intend to split up your time, given that the fellowship does tend to take a good 30 hours a week. And most working professionals are putting at least 40 hours in on their day job, which can make for a pretty busy schedule. So we'd really want to hear from you, either on your application or if you're accepted on your matching survey, as to how you plan to split up your time. Because we have found that many people who have tried to hold a full-time job and do this program at the same time find it's very difficult to give each piece of that the focus that it needs. And let's see, last but not least, we have a similar question. How's the commitment? Can students be full-time at school and do the fellowship? Yes, many of our fellows are full-time at school and do the fellowship. Where it starts to get tricky is if you have a lot of other outside commitments. So if you are pulling a full course load at school and you are, the president of 3 different clubs, and you have a part-time job for a little bit of money on the side, and you've got other stuff going on, and it can start to become really, really difficult to find enough time to be an effective fellow. That said, many of our most successful fellows have done the fellowship while going to school full time. It's just a matter of balancing time commitment, making sure you have good time management skills, and communicating with your pod leader and your teammates about what your availability looks like, so that we are, able to give you a good experience and give everybody else who you're going to be working with a good experience as well. We found that when fellows try to overstretch themselves, they often tend to sort of ghost us, if you will. Like, we've had fellows who like disappear for an entire week. They don't reply to emails, all of that. And when we're like, "Hey, where the heck were you?" They're like, "Oh, it was my finals week, but I'm back now." It's like, hang on a second. We had people who were asking for you and people who were counting on you. So we know that there will be people sort of, just be mindful of that when you make a commitment like the fellowship. All right, so we are more or less at time here. Thank you all for all of your really great questions. If we didn't get to your question, please feel free to shoot us an email at help@fellowship.mlh.io. You can also shoot me an email. My email is very easy. It's just my first name, Amanda, at mlh.io. We definitely want to hear from you. If you've applied for the fall, you will hear from us soon. I promise. We are in the thick of matching. And if you haven't yet applied, know that we do still have seats available for the fall semester, and we have opened applications for next year's programs as well. So please feel free to throw your application in. You'll get to meet some of us on the team, and hopefully you'll be in the next class. Um, Thanks so much for coming, everybody. This was a ton of fun. I will see you all probably in October. Bye, everybody.